All right, we are live. All right, welcome back. Just had to reset this Ecamm because it was on the wrong profile. But anyway, so we are hopefully now streaming to where we're supposed to be streaming, and I apologize for that mess up there. When new technology comes into place, or when actually I'm eliminating a process, which is probably part of the life tuition thing that we're going to talk about today. Just things happen, and that's what this is all about. So welcome. There's Scott, and he's in my double thing, so I'm going to switch that over there. How you
I
doing, my
like
friend?
being me and me. It was good seeing two of me and only one of you.
How's it going, my friend?
It's good. It's funny. We get on, we start chatting, and then it's like, holy crap, we got to go live and didn't do any testing, anything
Yeah,
like
we haven't been doing the testing, and that's all my fault, by the way. It's not Scott's. I'm just so excited to speak to him on Tuesdays because we're pretty busy these days, so we don't usually talk a lot anymore in between the shows, which is, hey, that's part of the life tuition that we're going to talk about today. So I think today it's all about the life lessons that we've learned up to now, aside from all the stories we've told before. So I know that there's stuff there that we've talked about for like 3 years. So I'd love to talk about like some of the new things. Not to say we can't bring up some of the past, but some new things that we've learned, over the last year, maybe year and a half. I know I've got a lot of ideas, or not ideas, but insights. And going back to the GLOW framework, the gratitude that I have, the learns that I've learned from the gratitudes, the opportunities that have come from the learns, and the wins that have come. And it's all about life tuition. So, life tuition, the way that I have put this into play years and years ago, like a decade ago, which was that we all pay life tuition, some kind of experiences and stuff that happens to us, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it always leads to opportunities. And sometimes it takes a while for us to see those opportunities because, let's face it, life happens, and sometimes life is not very kind and we have to deal with it. So that's the topic for today. What are your thoughts, Scott, as I'm going to jump around and fix some of these settings?
what is the exact topic, Joey? What are the words of the topic itself? Life what?
Life tuition.
Life tuition. Thank you.
Life tuition. It's something
First
that
off,
we we individually pay our own life tuition. And nobody pays the same life tuition. Even if we went to the same school and the same class and paid the same amount to be in the school, we're not paying the same life tuition.
this is an incredible topic. And I think this is the first time in 158 weeks, 3 years, two shows that you've told me in advance to get ready for something. And it was interesting because life tuition, you said, Scott, come up with 3 to 5 ideas that you can share for help with mindset and life tuition. And of course, I was sarcastic with you, as I usually am, in my reply. And then I just wrote down a couple. And then throughout the afternoon, I wrote down more and I wrote down more. And a lot of what I realized, what life intuition for me are my superpowers as well. On my superpower matrix that I did, that you had me doing, that I do all the time and have everybody do. And if you haven't done it, go ask Joey for the superpower matrix and go do it, because it's key in the development of your business and anything you do online. Anyhow, as far as life experiences that's on the superpower matrix, like most of these are on there because it's amazing. And I got to tell you also, Joey, the GLOW formula, we've unpacked, I don't know, who knows how many different frameworks, templates, formulas, processes, systems, yours, mine, ours, others. That's the one that just continually stays with me and that I talk about it. And it's just
Thank you.
almost like a play that it just, it's so simple. on what you did. And it also goes into here is I'm grateful for all these life tuition opportunities I've had, the lessons that I've learned going through a lot of this, and the opportunities that they've created and are yet to create, and the wins from them. All this stuff goes together. It's got to be dream client in there somewhere just for the fun of it. I had to throw those two words in the conversation just because I can. Anyway, so life tuition, and I'm like, God, there's so many of them. Which one do I want to do? I'm going to share a first one that way back when, and then I'll play with some others. We'll go back and forth, I'm sure, more relevant to entrepreneurship mindship. But this one was June 23rd, 1969. It was my 10th birthday party, and all the family and friends were gathered in our backyard. We had a built-in swimming pool with these plastic boats, and Rennie Edelson was in one of them. And we play a game with torpedo where you push off the side and you hit the boat and you tip it, and then it goes down. That's torpedo. Well, Rennie Edelson, I torpedoed his boat. We're all called out for lunch and this and that. And next thing I do is I hear screaming and my father jumping in. Rennie, whose boat I torpedoed, sunk to the bottom of the pool. One problem: Rennie didn't know how to swim. So fortunately, they got out in emergency vehicles, and he was fine. But to me, talk about life tuition, to really be cognizant of your actions and what they could potentially do to harm someone. And again, that's just that was more of a early on life experience. And by the way, that's the Dale Carnegie formula that I just shared with you in how I did that. But I'll just then jump to another one that was, life
Well, let me
tuition.
play off of that one because you just reminded me of something that I learned along the same type of story. And what I learned from this is that um, I saved it's at least 3, if not 4 or 5 people from drowning. 3, they were in my pool, like 3 of them. I know that 2 or 3 of them were in my pool, and a couple of other ones were in another pool. But that's not really the story of it. It's more of I don't think when something like that is happening, and I just react. And so I've jumped in, we're not even thinking, clothes on. It doesn't really matter. Just like when the situation was going on, I'm in and I'm out. And so that when I look back at that and I look at how I operate today, that's exactly how I do it. I don't think. I jump into the deep end. I don't care what's going on. Is the water cold? Is it good? What's underneath the water? Nothing. So I just jump in. And it learned, like, that life tuition is that this is how I operate. I see someone struggling, however you want to put that in context, and I just jump, not even thinking about it. So I wanted to play off that. I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. But as I look back and say, okay, this is how I did this, and how I operate now, it's like, wow. And then even on that, Scott, here's an interesting fact. Yeah, because there was more of the people that I saved. I was actually learning how to swim, terrified of the water because my mother made me terrified of the water because I almost drowned, by the way. I was clinically dead for a couple of minutes, had seaweed down my throat because I rolled into the water and sucked in all the seaweed, and I was dead. And a doctor came by, it just happened to have a doctor walking by at the cottage and pulled the stuff out and brought me back to life, type of thing. So my mother was freaking out and never wanted me to go near water until I was 12 years old, and we actually got a pool installed. Go figure. I don't like water, but let's get a pool installed. So then I had to learn how to swim. And when you're on the side in the shallow and you're kicking your legs or whatever, you're with the little board, you're like floating on the board thingy. So I'm kicking like crazy, and there's a kid out, I don't know, 25 feet or so, and it slips, the board slips, and nobody saw him except me, and I don't know how to swim. And I jump off and I'm running out to the deep end or the middle end, which was higher than me, and everybody's freaking out. Where are you going? You don't know. And the instructors didn't see that kid. So that was the very first kid that I saved, not knowing how to swim.
Thank you for sharing that, Joey.
It was all because of you, so thank you for bringing that up.
Well, and I'm going to jump into one that kind of will end up back here, is when when I put my first course out to the world, I did it on Udemy. And I did it on Udemy because I had no list, I had no idea, I had no money, but I created a course and I put it on Udemy and it sold and it became a bestseller. And it was proof of concept. It was like, okay, if I make these animated video lessons to teach people how to do something, people will buy my stuff. Okay, so talk about, I mean, it took me 6 months to build that course, hundreds of hours, but lifetime tuition, that taught me that you put it out there and proof of concept rather than, spending a fortune trying to build something. And that led me to, I met a fellow whose course I purchased on using Camtasia, who then contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this thing called Kajabi. You want to do it with me?" I was like, "Okay, I'll do it with you." Then we formed a mastermind group. There were 8 of us who were all brand new
Hmm.
to Kajabi. And I knew marketing and copy and all that. I didn't know anything about Kajabi. And for hours upon hours upon hours, we got on Pomodoros and we learned it and we helped each other. And I took it and ran. And then I jumped into the Kajabi group and started helping people really more with the marketing piece and talk about Glow and talk about life tuition. And then some of the most amazing people that I've known in my life, I met, present company included, to where, talk about just a whole chain of events of life tuition to all come back to. I get to Tuesday night show up and we get to share, but more importantly, it's what you say that I hear that enables me, inspires me to say something, and vice versa. I think that's the power of what this has become. So, talk about life tuition for something that has been created, and you and I have talked about 157 shows, 3 years, 2 shows. The content there alone, if one of us took a year off, we wrote 20 books, that would be it.
Yeah.
So I just, again, a lot of things in there for a circle. And that was just one of the life transitions on my list. And it looks like the comments are working here, and Angel's commenting, and Hi Boys is commenting, and then Lorna's here. So I'll let you read any of these if
Yeah,
need be.
I think they're just saying hi, and Lorna's given some props up to be a 911 dispatcher, I think. No way, Lorna. Like, I mean, you've got a superpower for that. I don't know if I can handle that. So I just react. I'm not sure if it was the right things to do, but I noticed that that's how I operate my life, and it's something that I learned. I think that it helps me. It's just that I don't think about the danger that could
Well,
happen,
Joey,
right?
what you shared with us is instinct. Somewhere you went and saved a life and you kept saving lives. It's instinctual. And I've said this to you. Yeah, granted, you help people with overwhelm and this and struggle and this and making mistakes. But I always say to you, you save people's lives.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
that's what you will do. I watch you. You see somebody and you go save their life. It's like, I don't want your life to be. I want to help save your life. That's what you do. So
Thank you.
there you go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of. I wanted to share a story, another story that I may have already talked about before. I was going to talk about me going through the plate glass window. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about. But I wanted to talk about like the last month or so that's been happening, and even a little bit further than that, like 6 weeks, maybe 2 months of the business now, like just totally expanding and learning like how do I handle all that and it's funny today because we had on my coaching call, like where I am coached, is Nick Sonnensberg, who has a brand new book out, by the way, and it's called Nick, you're gonna kill me. I forgot what it's called now. It just came out today, and it's dang it, hang on, I gotta plug it. Give me 1 second.
We're going to have to connect your brain to Notion at some point. You do realize that.
Did I write the dang thing down? Yeah, it was. Hang on a minute. I have it in my. I have it in my million notes here as I was. Because I just want to.
And Justice, by the way, Joey, Justice joined us. Greetings, Joey and Scott.
Hey,
And Laura earlier said those experiences are life changing. Very grateful it wasn't life ending. Yes.
for sure.
And
Book is called "Come Up for Air." Okay, "Come Up for Air."
come up for air.
Yeah, and it is about just productivity, but not just about productivity. It's about systems and the right things to put in place and the tools, right? The right tools. And I'm a tool geek. I love these things, and so it was just a fitting conversation today that we had on the call, and I was, I've been building out Notion and organizing my assets, my digital assets, and all these things, which has been fun, so much fun, and like hours and hours and hours. Like I'm back to the old, 12-hour days of, I'm doing the coaching in the daytime and then staying up till 3 a.m. sometimes, just like so into it, connecting all these things. And I know it's taking a lot of time now, but I can tell you that what I've learned, or the life tuition, is that even today, or even just right now, where the live broadcast went, like, I have to redo this broadcast, in seconds, to go back to reset the broadcast, get the information, that was stored in the content area, like what's the description of the thing, like those things, even though they're small, minute things, are very important, so I can grab it and go back and be like live within seconds. And so I learned that it's, even when it was back to when I bought Infusionsoft in 2012 or something like that, and didn't use it for a year and a half, because I was building my product, which is a whole other description. I was building the perfect product, right? But I was learning it behind the scenes and playing with it, because whatever, I just love that stuff. And then I launched. This is like kind of bouncing between the two, but I'll bring it together. So I launch, and then my launch, something broke. And literally within under a minute, I was fixing the funnel and back of the inside Infusionsoft. So all these people, which was not a lot, it wasn't like it was a billion people going through, but still it was enough for me to fix that. And so I think that I learned over the last little while now is by investing time, and you're investing time, but you're also buying time to invest more productive time later, which is really important to me. So even though I'm putting in a lot of time now, because I mean, even my wife says, she's like, I thought you were supposed to, this was the year of like reducing everything, and you're supposed to have more time. And last year you had, I'm like, and now you have like double time in. I'm like, yes, I know, but I'm building this thing out so I can again have 3 times or 4 times the amount of time that I had last year. So it's a life tuition of, I'm buying back time by investing more time. Does that make sense? I'm buying back. Yeah.
That makes absolute, complete, total sense. And I want to read a comment that Justice shared. I came across your channel on YouTube 3 days ago, and I've been replaying the Guerrilla Marketing podcast.
Oh, here it is. Okay, cool.
So all the Google AdWord money that we spend is finally working, Joe.
Thank you, Justice.
Just kidding, obviously. But yeah, thank you, Justice, for being here, and that's great. Talk about life tuition, Joey.
Yeah.
We've got 157 shows out there in the internet cyberspace world, and Justice found Guerrilla Marketing. Hopefully, it's helping him, and there you go.
Yeah.
Saved another life you did, Mr. Ragona. Yeah. I'm going to share another one, Joey, and again,
sure.
They keep popping in my head. Atlas. When I shut down for 3 months and I committed to doing Atlas the way I do things, the way you and I do things, is go at it with everything you got. Don't, give it 100%. There's no, see, to me, there's no 110. There's only 100. It's all in, or don't do it for me. And what that's done is just focusing on that for 12 weeks, and the process and all the exercises and getting certified. That at the time was a different commitment for my future Scott. But now that I'm looking at it as life tuition, just what it enables me to do in everything I do is just powerful.
Hmm.
And so, again, that to me, talk about life tuition. What if we, from a mindset standpoint, really decided that we needed something that was going to transform our lives, made the transformational investment, I call it, of money, but the most important one is the time to actually do it rather than, yeah, I bought this great program. It was a lot of money. Well, how'd it go? I haven't finished it yet. Life got in the way. I got busy. And it's tough. I mean, that was a tough commitment for, you remember it. I said, well, what if I only had 3 months to live? What would I do for future Scott? And that there's a whole nother life tuition discussion piece thing. You picked a topic that could be like 100 shows unto itself.
Yeah.
So go.
Well, what is something that you learned from one of these life tuitions? Any practical tips you can share with somebody or share with us?
Yeah, I will definitely. From Atlas, there is two that I strongly believe in that now have become a part of my framework, my process. Anytime I talk to anyone, there's two pieces that didn't exist that are life changing for everybody. And that one is the whole dream client. The fact that before I will do anything, before I'll consult, coach, write, copy, anything, it's got to start with the dream client, period. And that was years of struggle for both of us, the whole avatar and the perfect avatar. And I did that exercise so many times that I could tell you my avatar. But then, the whole dream client became, it's just such a mind shift. And if everyone just got that from a life tuition thing, then you would save their life. I could keep going. The second one is chain of beliefs,
Hmm.
is how can I possibly go out to the world and help them solve a problem that they have, the dream client, and give them a solution and bring them to the dream oasis from the crisis and the struggle. How can I do that unless I understand them and what they believe in, what they have to believe is possible in order to get them from where they are to where they need to be? Those two pieces, Joey, just keep repeating themselves in what I'm doing. And like I
Cool.
said, I put out a proposal today to a prospect and to do a project with them, do the things I do. And it was, that's what it was all about. It was just the focus on first thing I'm going to need to know is your dream client and your chain of beliefs before we. It doesn't matter what I'm doing.
Yeah.
For this one, it's taking and helping reformat a mini course and write some copy for it and get it out there. So those two. What did I learn from my whole experience with video creation and Kajabi is don't do it alone. Go out and find a group of people that are just like you. Alone we go slow, together we go fast. There's the people I met back then, they're still friends, and I helped them and they helped me.
Yeah.
And they're your support group and they're the ones you bounce thing off of. But if you go this entrepreneurship thing alone, it's a lonely road.
Hmm.
I am so blessed and grateful, as I said. Talk about life tuition. The life tuition I invested has given me some of the most powerful relationships I've had in my entire life, and they're all digital. So there's just three pieces right there.
Yeah. Thank you for that. The like, there's so much to unpack on what you just said. I think that for me on the side of I think one of the things I want to talk about, or at least what I've learned in the last little while, is like a lot of it is just like you've heard it before sometimes, or you know it, or you never really did it, or you never really do it. And one of them is just by building. Again, I'm going to go back to the the assets or the wiki or the stuff that I can go back to again and again and again. And I've known this forever, but I've never really done it and employed anything. And an example of this is building your SOPs or building your documentation or frequently asked questions and these kind of things, right? And So that's one of the areas where I've been spending a lot of time, is building that out. Is like, okay, I've answered this here. I'm going to go put this into a document so I don't have to answer it again. Not that I'm lazy. It's just like, well, it's the same questions. So I can point someone to that area, or I can point a team member to say, here's, if this question comes up, here's the answer to it. And we've all known this, but in theory, but are you actually doing it? And so last week, I was processing like a return, okay, so return order, and I know how to do it. But it took me, I'm going to say it took me the entire day. Like my entire day is like, 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock, whatever. And it probably took me 1.5 days to do the process and record it at the same time. And I'm thinking as I'm going through it, actually there's about 27 steps, 28 steps. I would have never guessed that there would be that many steps, first of all. So if I ever ask somebody, here, it's just easy. Go over here, click this, go to Stripe, do this, and it's not, it's easy to do, but it's like you forget all the steps, right? And so that was a life tuition lesson. It was me investing a day and a half, easily 6 hours, 5-6 hours to do that. And it was just one processing thing. That was it. But recording it, going into Notion, putting it here, making it whatever. But I'll never have to do that again. And it allowed me to not only dump it out of my head, to never think about it again. Did I remember to do something? Did I forget to do something? It's all there. That's life tuition. And if anybody's listening to this and thinking, that's going to take me forever to build out SOPs, you are right. But you don't do it all at one time. When the thing comes up, when a situation comes up, you take that opportunity to build as you go. And it may not be the final version. And it's the same thing as we're on the topic of, the digital asset part of it, is I hired someone to help me, gather my past stuff. Like I've written so much stuff, I can't even remember that it's there. And so now it's not, well, digitized. It's already digitized, but it's now in an area where I can easily find it and go back to it simply. And then she asked, well, what about now? Like when you write something, do you want me to go and keep doing this process? And I go, no, because I fixed the process. Before it used to be jump in the water, Joey. Like, hey, here's a great idea. Go post it and then just forget about it. Go save the world, post it, and then that's it, right? Never worry about it again. But now it's like, no, I might have to save the world again, just using your example, so let me post or let me answer. Take that information, go over here and put it into the area where I can retrieve it later on. And this is one of the areas that Nick was talking about today, is set up your world for retrieval and not for passing on the buck, which I just took right away. And yes, that's what I've been trying to do in the last 3 months. So anyway, that was a mouthful.
Another one, Joey, and these are powerful because it is life tuition. And one of them to me was in just one of our shows, and I don't remember exactly what, but we talked about think time. And to me, there's an investment here. And when I went through the whole Atlas process, one of the parts of my day that became important was committing, before I jumped into the digital world, that I prayed, meditated, hung out in my zone of genius, did some mantras, and did think time. And that's my zone of genius and think time. And that was a game changer for me, Joey, so that I did not have to wake up, get into the office, and go at it. And
right,
that was from whatever we've been doing, the shows, this. And so to me, talk about life tuition was learning that stuff, showing up. Anybody that shows up here, I watch people take things and go with them. And there's probably some comments here that we might want to play with. Is that fair?
Yeah, I just put them on screen.
Oh, cool.
Can you see the screen or not?
By the way, Justice right before that said, I literally did a search, Guerrilla Marketing Masterclass.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm glad. I'm glad the on the ranks of guerrilla marketing. I'm up there. I got to go search and to see what position that is. But that's great. Thank you
Well,
for letting me know.
yeah, I wanted you to make, I wanted to make sure you read and heard that because
Yes.
of that piece, kind of like Profit First and this and YouTube and just how
Thank
your
you.
brain works. So,
Thank
uh,
you.
Angel, schedule time to schedule time is one of my greatest life tuition lessons. Yeah, that's what prompted me to schedule time to think. I schedule dedicated focus time to plan every week, life and legacy planning. That's fantastic, Angel, and
It
that's
is.
great advice for anybody. Is we don't usually schedule time, and because of that, Joey, and what I've built developed, I was on with a client and looked at the productivity, and because I do a life purpose call every week and have for 2.5 years, we've developed a process. What a shock. And we used to commit to doing 100 things each week. I'm going to do all these things. You know me, Mr. Multiplicity. And over time, it became what three things will you commit to doing? And it was, what did I do well? What could I do better? So it created a productivity piece that makes us more productive. And then that was life tuition because working with a client the other day, I realized I needed to help them structure a productivity piece in what was their dream life, how many hours in the dream life a day did they want to engage in their thing, what, and then broke it down. So again, life tuition, dream life, dream client. And I will toss it back to you in your court, Mr. Ragona.
Um, well, I'm going to bounce off of that in terms of the productivity because one of the tuitions I paid is doing the 50-minute blocks or 50-minute focus sessions that I like to call them for since 2012. I'll give credit to Eben Pagan for introducing me to that, and it's changed my life. And then what I learned by doing that is not only that I could focus and get a lot of stuff done as ADD person, but also in the last little while, in the last, again, it's pretty recent, like 3 months, maybe 6 months or so, that I've been looking at what's really going on with the focus blocks. Is now they're like superpower blocks, right? There's focus blocks, there's superpower blocks, and there's a difference. So I realize that at certain times of the day, we have certain superpowers and certain times of the days where it's not in our superpowers and not in our zone of genius. But we still need to do stuff. So before I was using focus blocks as just, okay, well, I'm going to do email because I'm going to do a, focus block, but it's probably wasting if I'm doing it in the morning. If I'm doing that, it's wasting my superpower of creativity, right? So I'm moving those zones around saying, well, in the morning, if you're going to do a power block or a focus session, you should not be doing cleaning up your email, even though it's a focus session and you're getting your emails cleaned up and stuff. It's not the right time to be doing that. And that's another life tuition thing of like
I'm going to
zoning.
jump on that one too, because
Yeah,
Joey, if I may, you
definitely.
are one of our connections got a little wonky. Pomodoros, for anybody watching, this is a great show because there's so much gold in here because it's rapid fire. But Pomodoros, oh my, you and I have done them together. I've done them separately. I told you I built 6 courses, all animated, humongous ones, over the course of 6 to 8 months, doing Pomodoros almost every day. And the key is, yes, a focused session. We do 50, some do 40, 45. You get a timer and you do it. And it's great when there's accountability because you can't goof off. Because if I say, okay, Joey, I'm going to write copy for this landing page or for this sales letter, and I come back and goes, okay, bro, how'd you do? Well, I decided to, go on Facebook and that and be like, I don't really want to tell Joey that. I want to get this done, and it's part of the whole productivity piece. So
Yeah.
that strengthens as you do it. And for anybody that's trying to get it done, how many Pomodoros will it take? How many focus sessions of 50 minutes will it take to do this? And it might be 3. Okay, those are my 3, nothing else. And then at the end of 3, hopefully I've gotten it done, and they are powerful and they get more powerful. Go.
Yep. Lorna says, part of my deconstructing December was doing a lot of hard work in many ways. I learned that sometimes I just had to do hard things and didn't realize how often I quit when things get hard. Yeah, definitely. It happens to all of us. And I mean, this is a whole other topic that we could talk about too, because I've seen I'm yeah, there's a whole other discussion here that you're either going into, I think it was Dan Sullivan who said it. There's only two choices. We either go into courage or we avoid courage. And I don't think he said avoid courage, but that's basically what you're doing. And you're making every excuse not to do it. And then you fill that avoidance of courage, or I'll call it, I think it's called courage avoidance, whatever it is. You're in the courage avoidance stage and you're filling your time by doing busy work that's not really work that progresses you. And I think I'm merging all these all these books and knowledge into one area, but I'm going to give Dan credit for the courage thing because that's his for sure. And that's the thing.
Joey, I got to jump in here again, and I
Okay.
want to say this because your zone of genius and your level of acquiring knowledge and giving it back to us. One of the things I admire most about you is consistently, it doesn't matter. You give credit where credit's due.
Thank you.
You just, and then that is just one of your basic loving characteristics that I admire, because even if you don't even remember who it was, you're like, look, I don't have any idea who it was, but it was somebody else.
Yeah, it wasn't mine. Like, most of the stuff I talk about, 85% of the stuff is not my stuff. I might be able to package it together and call it a program like Atlas or whatever, but it's like, it's not.
Joey, okay, that's another life tuition piece, is all of the things, everything you've read, every seminar you've gone to, every workshop, every contact you have, every single thing you've done is a culmination into what you do today.
Mm-hmm.
And bring to it. And that, you're doing Academy and you're part of your coaches, groups, and masterminds, and you continue to do those things to elevate you. Talk about life tuition. You never stop. You're always reading books, the next book. The tribe is like, holy crap, what book is Joey going to tell us we have to read now? And he tells us that we end up reading it. And I finally read a book the other day that you didn't read. I was like, have you read Godin's Pope the Box? It's an old one. He goes, no. I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't even know it existed. Like, wow. But yeah. Thank you, Scott. I thank you for that kind words, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Joey, this whole thing, life tuition, what this show, life tuition, for anybody that they show up, they participate, that's life tuition, investing in this.
Yeah.
And so real quick here, and you kind of asked me to get to this one before we end up at the top of the hour.
Well, hold your thought, because I want to read what Lorna said here, because it relates to what we were just talking about, which is the power of when. This is a very powerful book, and it is kind of like it's not like a cover to cover read. It's more of a sectional read. Here's the chronotype that I am, and then it goes in and like, I'm looking to do this, and it's kind of a reference book more than anything. But it basically tells you that when your best time of the day is to do whatever it is that you want to do. So I highly recommend that book. If you go to thepowerofwhen.com or something like that, or the Power of When Challenge or whatever it is, maybe Lorna, you can find that and post it there. It'll tell you within like a couple of seconds, like a minute, what chronotype you are. And that's the first step. But that helped me, which is with the power blocks I'm talking about, which is like, wait a minute, this is when I'm creative, when I should be doing creative work, and I shouldn't be doing it over here. And so it allowed me to understand how I operated when I got my willpower, when it was gone, all those things. Okay, so let me just do another one here, another couple ones, and then we'll come to your thing. Akai Healing. I love what you're both saying, setting focus time to be productive and being discerning about what you want to focus on during the time your brain works best. Yes. So what we were talking about there is, just to flush it out, is like, I do power blocks sometimes, you know, at 12 o'clock at night, because now I'm staying up a little bit later, and I'm like, okay, I'm no longer creative. I was doing this PowerPoint or not, this keynote or something like that, and I'm not tired yet because I'm I'm overtired. So what am I going to do? I don't want to be just bouncing around doing nothing, and I can't be creative, or I would try to be creative. That's when I would do mindless work, like cleaning up the email or moving stuff around in Notion, like whatever it is. But I'm actually pumping stuff out. And one more, Scott, and then we'll come back to you. The more I'm open to share knowledge with people, the more I learn. Definitely, for sure, 100%.
My belief in that has, for many years, Justice, the same thing is the more I'm open to share knowledge with people, meaning the more I teach people what I've just learned, the more I learn. I was blessed to be able to become certified in the Atlas methodology and teach it immediately, like while I was, going through the program, and not just absorbing it, but to me, once you absorb something, go teach it if it's of
Yeah.
value. And the processes that you and I have gone through to get to where we've gotten through to figure all this stuff out, that becomes superpower, zone of genius, and assets, intellectual assets that we're the only ones that have. I could say, hey, Joey, how do I do this thing in Kajabi? And you'd be like, but then there's things that like I do because of the processes of launching 100 products, building over 200 landing pages. Talk about life tuition there. And I just thought about it differently, Joey, because as most of you know, I had gotten involved in a software company, launched 6 pieces of software and 100 products, and this multiplicity was always launching and did that. And I told you I lost 60 grand because of the money I borrowed.
Right.
I'm changing that. I invested $60,000 in 2 years to learn all the crap I learned.
Exactly.
That enabled to go and look at somebody's brand and in my head build out their entire experiential journey of where the dream client and training starts to how they get into your tribe, and using technology to do all that and make it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And the process is my process. Nobody else knows that process. And Angel reminds me, when she talks about our job is to get people to know, like, and trust us. We talk about that. She said they have to know, like, and trust your process. And that's what's become important to me also, is in that initial piece when engaging with somebody digitally through Message Navigator. That's another powerful thing, dude. Just that this is a huge shift for anybody listening that you need to adopt. And it's how you talk to people and the conversations you have using the technology of email and Messenger and whatever way you communicate, to do it on their timeline and learn how to truly help them and save their lives, and not use it as a sales tool. So, if you don't know what the Message Navigator is, or talk to Joey, reach out in the group. And if you're not a member of the group, get into the group. Heart-centered, loving, supportive people. Joey does one of the best jobs of running a group that I've ever seen. And I'm going to copy it like I do all of his stuff, because it's good and it works. So
thank you, man.
Again, so there's like a process that I learned from Angel, and you talk about it. And now the two of those together, it's like, okay, how do we get people to understand the process that we figured out that fast?
Yeah, and she's right, because that's part of the superpower matrix. Is the bottom quadrant is process. Like, what is your unique process? And the power of demonstration is the best way that I've, again, life tuition has figured out. Well, how do you actually bring people into your world? How do you sell them later on and all that? It's exactly right. Angel's right, which is show them how you can help them by actually helping them. And even if it's not a direct help, it's like, here's my process, go try this, and they'll go try it on their own. And they might try it on their own for a year. They might not even reach out and say thank you. They might whatever, but you're showing your process, and they have to trust that you can get them to the oasis. Remember, and I just shared this again on a a training I did as a guest today too. And thank you. I got to give a shout out to Meg Barrage and Kim Sellers Brown, who brought me into their group to do a training today about dream clients and your, building your life around your building your business around your life and all that. And I showed them the circle of chaos, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Remember? And that's what it is. It's like your dream clients are, and this is a life tuition again. Another piece of it is like I finally figured out that why it takes people longer, at least in my world, to buy from me, and why it wasn't working before, of me being the whole opt-in, here's 4 emails, why did you buy type of thing. Why isn't this working for me? Because of the people that were coming into my world were, and still are, duped, and they mistrust, and they've been screwed over by all of these people, and they're in that circle of chaos, which I had no idea back then of its existence until Life Tuition taught me this. And that was another big area to understand. Here's the people that are coming into my world. How do I communicate with them in an authentic way, in a way that allows them to make the decision on their terms and all these other things? But it was all based on Life Tuition. It was all based on 3 hell years of going through heart and head fighting and doing things and spending lots of money, taking money out of my accounts and selling my investments off to pay for Facebook ads and all these things that did not work. And it's not because I don't know how to do Facebook ads, and I'm not the best person in Facebook ads, but I'm not stupid either. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working. Well, it's the wrong people. It's the wrong message. It's the wrong thing going out to these people that are in your world because of who you are. And it's not aligned. There's something that's not connecting. And it took me Life Tuition to figure it out 3 years and many, many thousands later to figure out. But that's an investment, like you said.
I'm going to throw many of my thousands into the pot with you, because we've been on the same journey, separately, together, apart, doing the same things differently. And for anybody watching this that is thinking that I've done Google AdWords, I've had teams of people that have done Google AdWords, and we figured it out. Yes, we've done Facebook ads, and we spent a lot of money. And did we figure it out? I don't think you ever figure that one out. I think eventually, after you put that away and go out and find your dream clients and go serve them and build it, and I'll throw some Seth Godin practice stuff in here of get them to qualify in order to come into your world. And that's such a mind shift also, Joey, is your dream clients need to be qualified in order to come into your world. I sent an email back and forth to someone who's like, yeah, I want to get into your private consulting program. And I was like, well, I have some availability in this. And it wasn't scarcity selling. It was like, okay, this and that. And when she said, I would like to start doing it, I said, welcome to my world. And it is, you're welcoming them into your world so that you can change their lives, so that you can save their life. And to me, it's, again, the learning lesson of that is, I'm not really sure that you deserve to be in this world with all of us, playing with us in the dream client world. It's like when we talk about building a tribe, it's the tribes are built for the tribe. We're just kind of there as helpers. And all of this to me becomes vitally important in just the mindset of how do we do this without like throttling money after money. And I'll hear somebody say, yeah, I can fix that. We'll drive more traffic to what's already broken. And that's the answer. The answer is it's not even the funnel or that stuff's all important, but it goes back to the whole mindset of how am I going to go out and serve the world as an entrepreneur and attract them? They'll find me. Like we were just found, Justice found us. One little benefit breadcrumb of a show. He woke up, he had a need for guerrilla marketing information somewhere came to him, and poof, there it was. He's here. He's in our world. And he's jumping through hoops, not that we put those up, in a good way. And that was a huge learning piece this year. Oh my God, Joey, what we're doing, what did we learn this year in February?
Yeah, well, I mean, you brought up the hoops thing there, and I think that for me, a learning experience as well is that whole idea of taking an online program where everybody is selling the fact of get as many leads as you can and bring them in and try and sell them, and you're only going to end up with a few of them, is flipping the script on that, and then looking up at, I mean, on my wall here, like, you know, my visions of, okay, I wanted the Genius Network is up there and all these things, and thinking about it from that point of view is, well, what do high level masterminds do? Well, you just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to get into the mastermind. And when you do get into them, because I'm in them, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be behind the scenes with the people that we look up to and the books and the authors and all these things. And I paid my way to get into those places and learning that there's something behind the scenes. That's the whole other area. But the point is that it's a different culture. It's a different, you know, bonding. There's something behind the closed doors that a lot of the public doesn't see, and they protect that. They protect that room. So it's not about money. So then I figured, wait a minute, this is life tuition. I was on the outside before. I paid my way to get in, and I'm telling you, Scott, like the moment it was uncanny. This is another life tuition story. I'm glad you brought this up. Just reminding me when I paid my first coach in 2012 or whatever, I mean, it was 11, 12, whatever it was. And I flew down to Denver. They said, this is your first test. Get down to Denver because we're going to go to the U2 concert and everybody's going to be there. And this is your first test because you don't like flying and all this other kind of stuff. Whole other story. But I get down there and that's when I met like pretty much everybody in the industry, not knowing who they were. That's not the point of the story. The whole point is when I walked into the VIP area or the room in the hotel, there was people there that I already knew in the industry. Like I was in real estate investing and they were part of this as well. And as soon as I walked in, we started talking about something. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. He goes, well, you're part of the family now. And I'll never forget those words. And even now, currently, it's the same thing when I move into another area of coaching. Well, you're part of the family now. And it's like, okay, and that's life tuition. And so where was I going with this story? There was a point to this other story. There was another thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to the, it'll come back to me. Dang it. What were you talking about, Scott? There was another point there was another point why I jumped back to that and was gonna connect it together, but my brain just fried. It'll come back to me.
Yeah, Joey, you know, another little piece of, again, what you and I have done is when I fell in love with the speaking industry, I just went everywhere and hired everybody. I was nonstop for a couple of years, just going to conferences and hiring the best people to learn what they knew. And along the way, that's where the marketing thing took off. And I ran across this guy named Fred Gleek, who was doing these seminars in Las Vegas in a casino and this, and, you know, just teaching a lot of the early day stuff. And you know, I went and that, and I learned a lot of things. And I remember that I was doing a lot of seminars, and I had an order form at the end, which is what I learned early on in selling products from the stage. And he looked at the order form and he was like, you should offer a $2,500 teleseminar program as well. I'm like, huh, I never even had that in my brain. That one thing, then I put it on and it worked. I sold a whole bunch of them.
Right.
And that was a life tuition that I was paying life tuition for learning something, for something else to jump in there, only because I was engaged in my life tuition. And there's a lot of life tuition that we choose to go down, and an awful lot of life tuition that comes at us.
Yeah, we don't even know it's there. We're paying and we don't even know it's there. I do remember, if I can jump in here, I do remember what I was going to talk about, how to connect them. So it had to do with the masterminds. So because of paying to get into the right rooms, and it's a different, different conversations go on in there. If you want to look at it from the marketing standpoints or methodologies or techniques or methods, they're shared in those rooms like years before they ever become public. That's just what happens. But that's not the point of this point. It's like other stuff goes on in there. So you have to be the right person to get in the room. And that's when I looked at Atlas. Was, okay, what if I apply that to Atlas? What if I say to myself, like, look, in order to get into Atlas, you need to be not only welcomed in and curated, but you have to pass the exam. And it was a life tuition choice. It was like, I don't want to go down any other route that everybody else is doing, and figure, and how do I simplify this process? How do I simplify the fact of trying to get more people in, building out systems, building out teams, more funnels, more lead magnets, all these things, trying to get all these things out there. How do I simplify it? And what would be the process to simplify that, to make even the back end even easier for me, which means basically no returns, nobody's angry, like all these other things. And that was the process coming from the life tuition. How do I take the mastermind idea that everybody wants to get to, is like, I'm going to build this, and then finally I'm going to sell my mastermind thing. Well, no, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell the mastermind idea right at the front end. And that changed my entire world. That's what I wanted to connect.
I'm glad that I was able to allow you the time to figure out what it was that you were going to say. And Joey, that's why we do all this. And when you curate, and that's another thing, life lesson you've learned really well. I'm going to tell you what you've learned is how to curate the right people into your dream world, into your dream business, into your dream life. It's curating the dream clients to even be better dream clients before they get in, so that the community that you've created, the world, and as people come in, they want to be a part of. We're humans. We want to be a part of. And when we find a tribe of like-minded people who support us, love us, care about us, we want to protect that. And we don't want people coming in. You've talked about that. Another learning lesson is that when you're doing funnels from the standpoint of trying to get a billion people in so you could make 5 sales, hopefully, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're just, all that energy, let's go from an energy standpoint. We've got a lot of energy healers and all that. The energy that we put out there. And you've heard me say, I think one day we're going to be charged for emails and charged for doing things that we do freely and waiting right now. And I'm just like, the whole premise in looking at another Facebook group is like, okay, how about we make sure we build this group with people that want to be a part of something, which is what you and I have seen, and you've taught me in that is, well, if people aren't, get them off your list. Get them out of the group. You only want people in your tribe. You want your dream clients.
Yeah, and I think that was a big one too, Scott, is like what you're saying is realizing that, by doing this process kind of backwards and counterintuitively, is learning that it's not about, for me, it's not about the product. It used to be, it was like, okay, let me sell my knowledge and support people and all this great. It started that way, but today it's not that. It's not, it's how do I still serve with my superpowers and do what I love and build all that? But it's more about how do I protect that tribe? That's like number one. Like the sale of the product or the program that the tribe is a part of is kind of secondary now. So I'm really, if I think about the job now, the job has now changed. I'm selling the tribe. So and I haven't flushed it out yet, but thinking about it is like, I'm no longer selling Atlas or group coaching, and I am kind of selling, freedom, time freedom, like true time freedom and simplicity and unfunnel and all of that. But then there's another piece that I haven't flushed out yet perfectly, which is the tribe piece, because so many people in the tribe tell me that's why they're there, and they love being in that environment. And so somebody who's missing that or not getting it somewhere else because they're in the circle of chaos, it's an easy sale for me to say, this is what you're going to get from it. And they may not believe it, because this is, again, by coming to speaking to people who are in this current thing, this current cohort now, who are asking specific questions about that, like the tribe and the support and what happens and what are we allowed and not allowed to do. Allowed and not allowed. What? Like, these are new things that I'm learning that other people are saying to them, and like, wow. So this is another life tuition piece. I'm like, okay, well then I'm gonna support that. I'm gonna talk against that. I'm going to do the opposite of someone else. Life tuition, and it just allows your business to grow easier because you're always constantly. I didn't know I was putting in that life tuition to figure that out. It's only looking backwards that I can figure out, oh, I'm really actually protecting the tribe. It's not about selling Atlas.
Well, Joey, look at private clubs. People pay a fortune to belong to a private club, just to belong to the private club. And then they pay money to go eat at the club or play at the club. But they pay a lot of money to belong to the club.
Why do they do that?
It's what it stands for. They're a part of a tribe of like-minded people that they want to be with. And
I'm thinking also another area, which is that, yes, they want to belong to something that's prestige or whatever it is. Like, hey, I belong to this thing. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on where I can go there for this reason? Like, whatever it is. Let's say it's, I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking of Atlas Academy. So they go there because nobody else understands them. So they go there to talk about stuff that they can't talk about to other people, right? So it's a club that they're buying into. They're buying to be a part of that, so they can just let's just call it brainstorm. Let's just call it, be vulnerable and not be judged.
Yep.
Right. So that's what being a part of those groups is too. Would you agree?
Totally and completely, 100%. I think that's the bigger part of it.
Yes.
Especially in these, is a place to be vulnerable and heard and share and supported, and know that it doesn't matter what you say or what you do. And that doesn't exist in the business world to begin with, much less the online world. So to create that, to create a place, going back to this entrepreneurial journey is a lonely thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You're in wherever it is, your home office, your living room, your dining room, your bedroom, your this, your office, your that, your studio, and you're interacting with people. And then you go back to the other thing and you come here. And the people in the real world, they don't understand this stuff. You can't go to somebody and, say, what'd you do today? Oh, I went in and, I played around with this thing in Kajabi and I built an email sequence. I put some automations and I did a show on marketing about this and that and the other thing. And we talked about life tuition and the programs that we studied in this. And then I spoke to somebody about this and how to set this up. And they're like, oh, good, Scott. Okay, wonderful. What are you talking about? But we talk about that. We know exactly what it is we're talking about. Infusionsoft, and we had to build this, and we put a sequence in that. They'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, community is huge, man. Like, I mean, that I don't know who this is. You just mentioned this, but your Kajabi does this really, really well. A great community, and they protect the tribe, and it is. You're right. It is beyond the product. So it's about the community, and the more this is life tuition. If somebody's asking me what advice would you give me to build my business? It would be build the tribe first. That's what it was all about. And when Giovanni told me this, years ago, I'm like, yeah, forget it. I'll build the tribe when I can make some money. And now it's my number one pillar, build the tribe first. And, I'm doing actually 2 tribe builder workshops this Friday on just this alone. And that's life tuition, not the building. Well, that is life tuition, but discovering like what it is that you need to teach other people, and coming from the world of like build lead magnets, build things. And I would struggle with like, well, what am I gonna offer? And so I figured from what my life tuition taught me is the fact of, wait, do the first thing that you were talking about at the beginning, Scott, which was let's build the beta. Here's this idea. You build that out. I've been building it for three years now, right? And I'm still building it, but it's successful and everything else. But from that, again, questions that continuously come up and continuously, I like this, I like that, or I don't like this, don't like that. And the lead magnets, which is what the world likes to call it, we call it gifts, emerges from that. And that's what I learned, which is it's really not that hard when you're in one lane. That's it. There's no other lane. It's like, this is what I teach, and these are the things that are continuously coming up. These are the things that I could talk about, and how can I, like what Angel said, is bring people in with a demonstration of what I can help them do. How can I show them a process that actually moves them closer to their goal that may or may not include me? That's the way I look at it.
Joey, another thing, the anatomy of an UMBO. And for those of you that are not familiar with an UMBO, it's an out of my butt offer. And the anatomy of an UMBO is the book that's being written about the entire philosophy, psychology, and process of an UMBO. And I just wanted to put that one out there too. Talk about life tuition. To have the courage and the ability to do something. You did that with Right Marketing Copy a few years back.
Yeah.
And then we did like a follow-up UMBO. We were on once and we were like, dude, what if we did one of these together? What would it look like? And I did this thing and we added this and we just did it. We threw it together. We spent a couple hours. We wrote all the copy, which exists for the next one. And we put it out there. And we were like, you know what? Take advantage of it the next few days. If not, no worries. We'll get through the holidays and then life will continue to happen.
Right.
And I did the same thing. I just put something out there. And that's a learning experience. My zone of genius is doing what I do. Hey, who wants in on my zone of genius? Let's go up to the top instead of, well, how am I going to sell a bunch of things and stuff? So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and put that in the mix, because it's just to get it out there. I told you I read the book Poke the Box by Seth Godin, and the biggest takeaway was just go do it. Just go out there and initiate it, act it. Don't think about it, write about it, study. Just go out and do it. And I like the story in there, and I didn't know this, was Starbucks originally was kind of a failure in that the concept was roasting beans and selling them. And one of the dudes went to Italy and fell in love with cappuccino, came back and said, you know, partner dude, we should be selling these drink thingies instead. So they just went and put it out there to get it out there. And, you know, we have to create and put it out there, not when it's perfect. Put it out there before it's even, to make sure that it's going to, learning lessons. That's a huge one that we both is, why would I spend 6 months and thousands of dollars in this to build something that I don't know is going to work? All these people like, I got the greatest course in the world and it's $2,000 but nobody's buying it. Oh, how come? Well, blah, blah, the traffic and this, that. Well, will people actually buy the thing? And that's why beta. I mean, beta is another. Talk about life tuition. You know, when I launched software, it was alpha first. Look, this thing is going to be there's going to be it's going to crash. It's probably going to do all this stuff, but you're going to help us with it. Great. Then beta. So it's going to happen a little less, and then a little less, and a little less. And then, you know, I loved how you've done that, and I did it. Same thing. You were like, dude, go do your thing. Go do your landing page thingy. And that turned into something else. Talk about. Now that's what I help people with. It's not just the landing page opt-in formula. It's the sequence after that to deliver the gift and how to do it the right way and set it up so that they get the gift and qualify to get into the tribe. So I'm taking all those pieces and putting it into what I do. Talk about life tuition, and everything we've been playing with and what's come from it is using all of the technology we have to make that experience for the dream client and training so simple to get into your world. So there you go.
Meadow says, I think this is Meadow still. And by the way, I put in the link to give Ecamm the permission to put your name on screen, just in case you want to click that, because we'd love to see your face if possible. I think this is Meadow. I put in 2 years of life tuition into my community, and I'm finally getting to not lead with sales, but lead with community. I love that. It's a hard one to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're not seeing the results right away from what you're doing. And that's life tuition I learned with Scott as we built out the beginning of the tribe. The Facebook that I have now is me and him back and forth and just learning, okay, this is what it's going to take. And on that topic, it was it's funny because you're talking about the tribe, and Seth Godin says this, where it's not your tribe, and that's another. It's great when I read it. I'm like, well, okay, I get that it's not your tribe, but experiencing it is a completely different thing because it's kind of like you birth this child, and all of a sudden it's not yours anymore, and you it takes on an entity of itself, but you're still the leader. You're still expected to be the leader. So it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like you have a child and all they do is come home and eat and sleep, and that's the rest. And they don't want you for anything else. Right. So you're like, well, what am I, what's happening here? And it's funny because the tribe begins to take on an entity of its own very quickly, whether that's 5 people. Like you can bring in a tribe is 2 people. Like it's the first person you bring in, you have a tribe now. And maybe that's not the one that takes its own life, goes on its own entity, takes on its own life. It's when the tribe begins to communicate with each other. And even though you've gathered it, you created it, you have the space for it, whether it's email or whatever, it's not yours. And as long as you understand that, or this is what I've learned, if you understand that and respect the tribe, they will respect you back. But it's when you abuse the tribe, and you and I've seen this a billion times too, Scott, like in other people, communities where they, come into my Facebook group and here's what we're going to do. And they just, we're not even going to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm sure many of you listening to this right now know what I'm talking about. And you disrespect the tribe, you struggle even more. So it's again, dude, like we can wrap all of the things we've been talking about in the 3 pillars, right? Is that's part of the respecting their timeline piece.
Always, Joey. I was in a conversation the other day, and she was like, "Yeah, my focus is on the audience, and then the message, and then the offer." And I'm like, "Okay, so you're talking about the dream client, and it's the same things now that we're focusing on. If we focus on those 3 pillars, then like Meta was saying, and this is a really important piece. I've known this for years, but just the methodology that you teach and have developed make it so much easier to have people ask you if they can give you money to
Yeah.
buy your thing and work with you and engage with you. Not, there is zero pressure in this world, in this economy of the do different economy. That's a good title for a book.
I love
In
it.
the do different economy, I do. It is all about that whole shift in mindset, and people will come. It's always been how it is. That's why I love what I do. If you do it right, if you do it the Atlas way and you get out there, then no, it's not going to happen overnight. No, it's not going to happen in a few months unless you got a lot of things in place that make it easy. But over time, all of a sudden, these things just start to build and grow and deepen, and people come find you. They reach out and they're like, I want your stuff. And there's no, well, it's like, here's the thing, go read the document. And if you want it, I'll send you a link to give me some money. That's it. Not it. So,
Any other
gosh,
life tuition stories that you have, aside from the whole "here's how Atlas works" thing?
yeah, I do. Um, gosh, I decided I was going to move to North Carolina. I was teaching at the college. Life was really good, but I decided I was going to open my own restaurant, and I was going to move to North Carolina with my family, and I was going to, convince my father to invest in the business. And it ended up my father invested it, my brother invested in it, and I so wanted to have my own restaurant. That was my dream. That was my goal. I didn't know a damn thing about running a business or marketing, but I knew the business. I knew hospitality. I worked in a bunch of places. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I understood business. So I went and I opened a restaurant in a place that I should not have opened it. I broke all the rules of location, 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 and parking. And what if you actually like had a hungry audience who wanted what you were selling? Well, that would be a place to open a restaurant. It's kind of like, and that to me equates to this online world of so many people that are like, I'm going to build this course, I'm going to do this thing, and then I'm going to sell it to everybody because I know it's so good. And some people have told me that it's so amazing. And I made that mistake of not doing, and my ego was so caught up in that it cost me a lot of money. And the thing is getting the ego out of the way, and that's really difficult. And making decisions based on sound business, marketing, sense, logic that says, is there a big enough need for this thing? Is there a big enough population that have this problem that I could serve and help? And then get out there and show them how I can do that. That was just one of a huge lesson, and it took me twice to learn it, just so you know. Because then I opened another one with my older brother, only it was my money this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Took me twice to learn, and never. That's life tuition.
Yeah. I mean, the lesson. It's funny. There's a quote. I forget what the quote is, but it's like, I forget what it was. It has something to do with what you just said. The lesson. The lesson takes as long as. Forget what it was. It's basically when you're repeating the same thing over that you haven't learned the lesson. That's basically what the gist of it is. If you're doing the same thing over and over again and you're getting the same result, you haven't learned the lesson yet.
Right.
So it took you 2 times to learn the lesson. And we see people, at least I do, like, man, they're just pounding their heads against the wall like every day, every month, every week, just going again and again and again, year after year. This year's going to be different. This week's going to be different. And I see it and I can predict the future and I can't get them out of that loop or that chaos. And it just pains me, but they just haven't learned the lesson yet. And they have to learn it on their tuition. They're paying the tuition. Lorna's saying that she has lessons. Those lessons cost us in one way. I think got cut off there. So I don't know what the rest of that one was.
Well, she said, I have enough life tuition for a 5-volume set of books. I don't think I'm alone in that. Those lessons cost us in one way. But whoops.
Yeah, so she pressed enter too quickly. It's all good.
Too excited, and the fingers go across the keyboard. I got plenty of them here, Joey, that I wrote down.
Sure. Another one.
But I'm going to shoot. Here's another one that could be of value to some people that are holding on to something and trying to make something work and just sticking with something that they think should work, which kind of is an extension of what I said earlier, was building something that I should not have in the first place. But I let go, as you know, of the whole software company. Yeah, it's still running and it's still good for those of you. Be Video Pro is still up there. Kajabi, servers, everything. The software works. We still service it, but I put it down as far as going after that. It just was not my thing anymore. It wasn't my zone of genius. That is a learning experience, learning lesson, life tuition. But everything I learned in it applies to almost everything else I do. But I was running a yoga studio for 16 months and I loved it. And I let go of that 5 weeks ago. And I let go of a lot of things to focus on me. My former wife, very wise woman, I sat with her a few weeks ago and she says, Scott, what if you focused on you first, you second, and you third for right now so that you can save the world and everybody else? And, that's when I backed up, looked at things and said, okay, what's your zone of genius? How can you truly transform people's lives? Nothing about how can you transform some lives with what you know how to do? And that's what that got put out there. And so that was a life tuition to get to that.
Yeah. And on that topic, like, with my dad, and him passing at 60, like that's where I learned it from. There was a hard life lesson to learn, and following his his path of just tenacity and doing anything and everything to keep the business running and whatever it took and all that stuff, which is fantastic. But it eventually comes, it burns you out and you lose a lot of stuff. And in his case, he lost his life. And, you know, learning that life lesson was an eye opener to understand what my purpose was, to help entrepreneurs not do that, because I was doing the same thing. And years after his death, it was like, wait a minute, I'm doing the exact same thing. And then bringing that to entrepreneurs' attention, and still to this day, I do it. And I still get the same types of answers, like, what is the most important thing to you right now? Like 3 things, what comes to mind? And they'll list all types of things, but they'll forget me. They won't say me. And I'm like, I always challenge them, like, what are you missing in this list? And they don't know what it is. And it's because we put ourselves second all the time. So that was the first life lesson. It was like, well, okay, let's put ourselves first. And then it transferred into Atlas and all the programs I'm doing with the dream clients and all that stuff, because it does make all kinds of sense. Is if you want this, if you want if you want simplicity and you want happiness and all these things, then it makes sense that everything should be about you, including your business, including the clients that you work with and all that stuff. So those are life lessons. And it all stemmed from my dad passing away. Like, okay.
Kudos to Lorna, who is on the treadmill and listening to the show and typing all at the same time.
Yep.
And I didn't want to take away from that moment, Joey.
I just thought you had nothing else more to share.
No. I was just listening to you share, and then I just wanted to kudos to Lorna and shout out. And thank you for sharing that. And just everything interweaves, Joey. And what an incredible topic for the show.
Yeah.
Because we all have, none of us are immune from it. And you said earlier in response to something I said, some of life's tuitions we choose, some of life's tuition is handed to us, and some of life's tuition is happening to us that we have no clue about.
Yeah, and I would say that most of it is those last 2 categories. Like it's handed to us, and there's a lot that we don't know is happening.
Right.
And the ones we choose are the ones where, like, okay, those are the least resistance ones. Like, we usually gravitate towards those. And it's kind of funny because we could totally unpack this too, which we won't, but we could say that the ones that you choose reveal the ones that are hidden.
Of course.
So I'll give you an example. Example is many entrepreneurs, when they're in a failing business, will look at just getting out of the business, like selling it or bankrupting it or whatever, right? And that's their way out. And so, but there's a life lesson happening over here, which is maybe you should have been more aware of whatever. I can't even, maybe you should have put systems in place. Maybe you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Maybe you should have been, like, all those other things that are hidden. And then when you look back and go, oh, that's why this happened, because this was all happening in behind the scenes that you weren't aware of. That's another huge life lesson. Those are hard to spot.
Yeah. Steve Jobs, commencement speech, Stanford University. You can't connect the dots forward.
Yeah. We don't know what happens more than we realize. So true. And what a way to finish off tonight's show. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Scott, for this amazing conversation. Thank you for being with us here on Tuesday nights. We are here every Tuesday at 7:00. And usually if the tech goes well, we start right on time. Today, we're just a little bit late with the second version of this, but thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for allowing us to play with all kinds of new technology and breaking things sometimes, just the way it goes. If you're brand new to the show, if you want to let us know by hashtag live or hashtag replay, it would be great, because then I can know if you're watching it live or if you're going to be watching on the replay. And just one last little plug here to, if you're heart-centered and you're not in the group and you want to join us having epic conversations between our calls, that is where you go to join us, because I'm in there every day helping everybody else. Scott pops in every once in a while, and it's all good. So we'd love to have you over there. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Tuesday.